Welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas Council meeting with its team for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Thanks for the staff members and guests, delegations tonight, media for attending, and thanks to all those watching online. I have a motion. Let it resolve that Council rise and reconvene into open session at 6:22 p.m. and that Council direct administration to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, moving into confirmation of agenda. Are there any deletions, additions, or amendments to tonight's agenda? Councillor Smith? You're good? Okay. I have a motion to let it resolve that the Council of Municipality South Dundas approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Number 5, adoption of minutes. I have a motion. If there are no errors or omissions from those minutes, let it be resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as presented. December 6th, 2024, budget meeting. December 11th, 2024, regular council meeting. And January 13th, regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, moving into delegations. We have 3 tonight, so I'm happy to have Director Ben DeHaan from SD&G, and we also have Warden Lang with us, CEO Adams, all here, as well as Clerk Castleman and Ms. Summers from the counties, all here. So big audience for you, Ben. So let's get her going.
Go ahead. Mr. Mayor and Council, just wanted to say I'm happy to be here. I'm more along to tag along and just kind of say hi, but I will say that I didn't know a lot about South Dundas, but as I became warden, I'm learning a lot more. And I want to thank Mr. St. Pierre and Mr. Rod for coming to see us the other day and kind of getting us up to speed. And a lot of exciting things you guys are involved in. It's quite something to see. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ben, and maybe I will see everybody Saturday if you have a little bit of a grand opening, and I intend to be there. So
excellent.
Here's Ben.
Well, thanks for being here, Warden Lang. Appreciate it.
And thank you. And Warden Lang doesn't realize it, but he's my cover tonight after I present to get me out of here safely. So no, and I was going to make a joke about the fan club being here too. So no, sheer coincidence that there's a lot of county staff here today. So I'll get right into it and allow you to get to the end of your meeting. So thank you very much for having me. And the reason I'm here today is to present to local municipal councils findings of the road rationalization study that the county, in collaboration with public works directors from across SD&G, have been working on over the past several years, to be quite honest. This work was done to essentially look at the road system throughout, and I say SD&G, but I mean SD&G and local roadways, and really identify, look at the classifications of existing roads to really just to check to see, are we making sure that when we are maintaining and investing in those roads, we're doing so at an appropriate level of service for the roads and the purpose they're serving across the county. And really part of that means ensuring that they're under the jurisdiction of the appropriate authority. So I'll give you an example. The easiest example we can think of is snow clearing operations and snow operations. The county, we have a budget and a staff level and an equipment complement that allows us to perform snow plowing operations through the winter months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's a lot of money invested in that, and it doesn't make sense for us to be snow plowing roads that are not really at a level of service that requires it, because every roadway, whether local or a county road, should see a certain level of service. So why spend more money on a roadway that doesn't need that level of service? And it's really ultimately about making sure we're achieving the best use of taxpayer dollars across the board. So to get to this, to get to the findings of this study, what we went through was really, we were actually just going to start with this, what we now call phase 1, but we ended up going through a five-phase approach to the review. Phase one was really the initial assessment of roadways. So what we did to start off is we polled public works directors from across SDNG and said, what roads do you want us to take a look at? We're not looking at, we could spend 10 years on this if we were looking at every roadway. Let's pick those roadways that we really have a lot of questions about within each jurisdiction. So working with Director Heineman, we identified some roads within South Dundas. And what we did was very simple. We called it the phase one assessment, which was really looking at different criteria that exists, and this is through literature, and assigning a score to each roadway based on what types of purposes it was serving. So I'm not going to go through each one, but I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have on that. But ultimately, what we were trying to do with that is anything that once we added up, if it was connecting settlement areas, if it was providing a boundary service, if it had a high volume of traffic, a high speed, it got point score. And we identified that if a road scored 6 or above, it was deemed to be serving a regional purpose. So when I talk about originally when we started out this process, we thought, let's get through this. We're going to find the roads that are 6 and above, and hey, report's done. We'll let council know and wait for their direction on what we do next. Ultimately, what we found out is after we had went through this whole assessment, actually, sorry, I'm going to back up very quickly. Very high level view of all the roads we looked at within SDNG, so get a good sense of where that was. It was well distributed. Here's South Dundas, so we looked at specifically each municipality was about 2 to 3 roads. In South Dundas, we looked at Irish Headline Road and County Road 40, also known as Stampville Road. So I did get ahead of myself a little bit because I want to talk first about Irish Headline Road before I talk about phase 2 to 5. So Irish Headline Road was an example of a roadway that actually, when we were done the phase 1 review, so we scored it, Irish Headline Road scored 4.5 points. It serves as a boundary road, so there are some points assigned to that. It's an extension of SDNG 5, so there are some points associated with its connectivity with other county roads. But really, when we looked at it in the context of the regional road network, we determined, and this is as a group, this is not just Ben DeHaan in his office, just so that's clear, we determined as a group that, it still functioned as a local roadway, and we didn't feel it deserved or that it was necessary to kind of further study it. Because really what we found is as we had gone through these scores, and this is what I was getting at a couple slides ago, as we had gone through that scoring process, we saw some roads where it scored one way, it suggested one thing about the roadway, but when you actually looked at it in a little bit more of a holistic context, we said, actually, I think we need to delve into the roadway and what it's doing a little bit more. It just didn't feel right to say, oh, it got an 11, therefore it should be a county road. There are other factors that we needed to consider beyond just a simple scoring exercise. So at the end of phase 1, these are the roads that we said needed to go on further for evaluation for South Dundas in particular. County Road 40, Stampville Road was one that we said needed to move forward out of the 11 that were moving forward to further evaluation. Then we got into phase 2, which was the functional characteristics. So we took a little bit of a step back after we had done the scoring and said, okay, what does it mean in SDNG to be a local road, to be a collector road, and to be an arterial road? So our group sat down and essentially, using a lot of literature that's out there, made some determination of what that meant within SDNG. So local road, usually looked after by a local municipality. Arterial road, I'm going to say, actually, let me back it up. Local road, always looked after by a local municipality. Arterial road, always looked after by a county. And the collector road, that's of course the gray area where it could go either way. There's arguments on both sides of the coin as to whether it should be county road or local road. And for the 11 that we're talking about, by and large, it fell into this little bit more of a gray area where we needed to have a little bit of a further evaluation of it. So I'm going to stick to South Dundas's road in particular, and in particular, like County Road 40 in particular. Happy to talk about any of the other roadways, but I appreciate time is limited and not necessarily something that this council may be interested. But if you want to talk about Town Road, we can certainly get into it because our warden is very familiar with that one. Anyway, so when we looked at the detailed evaluation of County Road 40, For council's interest, it scored a 2.5, so 2.5 points on, going back to phase one, that's all it scored was 2.5 points. So again, if we would have just ended it at phase one, we could have said, okay, it's a local road, it should be a local road, job's done. But we kind of recognized it was serving some type of purpose within the road network. So what is it doing? It connects SDG1 to SDG16. It does have a reduced speed limit, so that works against it. Its primary function is property access. I don't think we can, it's not an EDR for the 401. It's not really connecting recognized settlement areas within the official plan to one another. Really, it does provide a barrier service. The 401 is there, so it does provide a barrier service to that corridor, that transportation corridor. But ultimately, where we landed with its evaluation is really because it is a county road, it is subject to some potential development restrictions as a county road, and it's not very much functioning as a county road, and it's best classified as a local roadway. So after phase 3 was done, and we had gone through this for those 11 roads that I had identified a couple slides earlier, we, as a group, went through the implementation options. So we said, okay, now that we're kind of making some determination of what roads should be classified as, we said, let's talk about how we get there and what we can do to get there, if anything. So, and this is where it starts to turn towards county council and through the input of local councils, is what are we going to do next with this information? So as a group, we said, well, there's a couple options. One is do nothing. We can leave it as is. We can say, great job, Ben. I really appreciated this report, and put it on a shelf, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And if that's ultimately the direction we take as county council and local councils, that's fine. I think it was a worthwhile exercise to do this, and but we don't have to take any action beyond that. It's ultimately up to councils to determine where to go. The alternative option, so option number 2, is redirecting traffic. So as an example, there are roads where with some engineering to them, we may be able to direct traffic on a higher volume roadway, which is a local roadway, which should continue to be a local roadway, try and get that traffic onto the county road network. A simple example of this and I'm thinking of the last presentation I did with the Township of North Stormont, Finch-Roxborough Boundary Road, if anybody knows where that is, it's a connection between County Road 43 all the way up to essentially the 417 through Prescott-Russell. It's a very efficient way to get to the 417 if you're on County Road 43 and you are either avoiding Highway 138 or just in your commute to get to 417 doesn't make sense to go to 138. That's a roadway, because of that type of traffic that's using it, may benefit from looking at engineering solutions such as improving its connection to County Road 9, getting traffic off of it and onto the County Road network, introducing lower speed limits or curves or things like that where we actually can slow it down. So those are the types of things where we looked at. Not every road was a good candidate for it, but there are some roads that we looked at through this study where some engineering solutions should be considered before we go down a certain path. Option number 3 is a service agreement. So there may be a consensus that we do want to transfer jurisdiction at some point in the future, but maybe what we do at this point in time is actually do a service agreement between the county and the local municipality. So good example of that is actually what we're doing right now on County Road 40. The municipality looks after winter maintenance for it because that's an appropriate type of level of service for that roadway. And we compensate the local municipality for doing that. And there's nothing to say that there aren't local roadways that would benefit from a little enhanced service or 24-hour winter maintenance service, as an example, to improve the level of service of that roadway. So that's the type of thing. A service agreement can happen at any point in time. We can stay in a service agreement type of scenario forever, or we can do that as part of a phased-in approach to transfer the jurisdiction. And then, of course, option 4 is that full jurisdictional transfer of the roadway. So moving it from the local municipality up to the county, or vice versa from the county up to the local municipality. So as I said, this is why I have protection here tonight. County Road 40, so the report is the ultimate conclusions or finding from the report is that the appropriate classification for that roadway would be a local roadway. For implementation, the recommendation that the report brings forward is to continue on that short-term agreement or short-term agreement on maintenance, and then look at an agreement of transfer at some point in the future. And here's all the other ones where there are study conclusions of changes within the road network, and that's one of the several changes that we had identified. So with that, I think that's the end. Here we are, and then we're meeting with local councils, soliciting input and feedback, and then I'm bringing that back to County Council, probably March or April meeting, and from there I'll get direction from County Council on where to take it next. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Hahn. Excellent. Thank you for the information. Obviously, experiencing it for the second time, third time, as we do road tours every year as well, and we talk about them. And it's interesting when you travel throughout the counties, how road classifications come into effect. And just thinking back in some of our local history, County Road 4 is now Lakeshore Drive. Yet County Road 41, the exit Upper Canada Road, used to be a local road that's now a county road. So these things happen throughout life cycles of roads, right? So interesting enough that we already are doing South Dundas level of maintenance on it versus county level of maintenance. I think that probably for myself, I'm going to open up questions. The two questions that that we asked at the county level, and maybe you could just expand on it. A, if we were to get this road, what condition would you transfer it to? And then just thinking about residents' driveways, culverts, and how those are affected at the county level versus maybe our level. So if you could just comment on those two things, that'd be appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so in terms of the condition, I think the philosophy that I would advocate for, again, ultimately it's not my choice. It's going to be County Council making the decision through a budgetary process. But I would strongly suggest, and we would not want to provide a liability to the municipality, nor vice versa, nor would we want to accept a liability. I think I can appreciate, and I've been fortunate enough to gain some experience at the local level in my time in North Dundas, and I appreciate perhaps the tighter budgetary challenges that a local municipality has. So I think there's a little bit of a discussion that needs to be had about, perhaps the county with, we do have a very, I don't want to say it's never enough, but we do have a good budget to maintain our road network. So I think that there's a good conversation to be had if the county was taking a local roadway up, what that agreement or what that cost sharing might be. But from the county looking at the local municipality, I would always advocate that it has to be in a condition that's, a like new condition or a good condition, or have the agreement speak to how we make sure that it's not creating a financial liability on the municipality right away. With respect to driveways and whatnot, I will certainly say, from the county's perspective, we have fairly significant regulations associated with driveway spacing, severances, the types of culverts, driveway sizing, and that's because we do operate an arterial road network, and that's a requirement to maintain a safe and well-controlled road network, where I would expect locally that is a little more flexible for residents, and so residents may enjoy a little bit more flexibility when it comes to access onto their properties.
Excellent. Yeah, and I do know, if I'm correct, when County Road 4 turned into Lakeshore Drive, the bridge that was closing to the end of its life, the counties ended up replacing that bridge just in 2022, even though it was our bridge, because that was an agreement prelude. So those things are all negotiated ahead of time. Questions, comments from the council team? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. I guess on that same theme of Lakeshore Drive, it's been, 6 years now since I think it's been upgraded. Did you get any positive or negative feedback? And I'm talking about the driveways and the culverts and the ditching from any of the residents post-construction of them having to maintain it or anything like that? What kind of feedback did you get, or did you get any?
I don't remember, and I could be proven to be wrong, I don't remember any significant negative feedback. I know we put a lot of money into resurfacing the roadway. I believe we did a cold in place treatment underneath the roadway to improve what's the base of the roadway as well, and a significant amount of ditch filling where it made sense to be able to widen the shoulders. So there was a lot of investment, and by and large, I remember certainly in the ditch filling areas, great support from the residents at that point as we were doing those changes and upgrading it before transferring to the local municipality. Post completion, I'd actually probably turn to the municipality and see what kind of feedback maybe they've been getting from residents. But to my knowledge, I think it was relatively well received, the work and the investments that were done.
And just subsequent, so when you guys are looking at these transfer of roads, we always have this discussion about ribbon development and trying to increase development along the roadway system. Is that something you guys are looking at as well? Because I know Lakeshore Drive, again, once it got transferred into a local road, maybe it was just a byproduct because it's just the timing, but there seemed to be a lot of residential development that occurred afterwards. I'm just wondering, do you guys take that into consideration? And for this particular road, have you looked at the zoning to see if there's opportunities for additional or residential growth?
So we have not, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have not looked at what the potential opportunity is if transferred to a local roadway versus where it is today. I do know, like, it does have a reduced speed limit, so the entrance restrictions aren't as significant as if it was posted at 80 kilometers an hour. So I'm actually, like, I'm not, there would be some restrictions, but I don't think it's as significant as some of the other roadways we talk about in the study when we talk about development being, you know, where there are some challenges from a severance perspective. So I don't know if that doesn't really answer your question. We haven't got to that level of detail yet.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that, Ben. You know, just going through and living through the transfer of the Lakeshore Drive, I know that kind of the agreements was in place prior to the 2014 council, and we kind of just went through it. But the actual construction, the transfer, it went really well. I think it was well received. I know it was well received by me, who was living on that street, but no, I think it only makes sense. And for this street here, I believe it does make sense to explore that further on County Road 40. It seems like it should really be a local road versus a county road. So I would be acceptive of moving forward and exploring that further as well.
Other comments this time? Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So it might be actually a question to our staff, if that's
Sure,
all right.
yeah, of
So
course.
through you, Mayor, to Director Hyman, if we were to accept this, or this were to become a local road, would you come back to us with financial implications as to what that would mean for your operations and what it would look like in our budget outside of being upgraded by the counties if that's needed?
So through you, Mayor Broad, so the only difference would be summertime activities, pothole patching and grass cutting, roadside grass cutting. Right now, we maintain it in the wintertime, so that cost, in a roundabout way, we are already paying that cost. Yes, it is cost recovery. Does it cover the cost? Maybe not, but we are recouping some of it. So there wouldn't be that much other than if we had to get into a complete rehab of, you know, a new traveled portion of roadway, that's where your initial cost, your substantive cost would be. Or if a culvert failure on the road, but that would be something that we would discuss between the lower tiers and SDNG. I think we would do a drive-through or a walkthrough and look at all the cross culverts and just look at the state of those culverts before any agreements were put into place.
Councillor Ward?
Yeah, so thank you. Through you, Mayor, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So if that report can come back before we make a decision, that would be great. And even if you could just include, even if it's minute, the financial obligation, that would be helpful as well. I think, just so we have an idea.
Sure. Now, holistically, Director DeHaan, you know, we take 5 or 6 roads out of SD&G, become local roads. The budget should be lower at the county level, right? So residents should pay holistically, of course, because we may be taking on other roads, but that would be somewhat of a trade-off. And I know it's not one-to-one based on how SDG taxes work and how many roads and kilometers, et cetera. But in essence, taxpayers should pay less SDG taxes than pay more SD taxes. Holistically, whether that comes to fruition or not is always discussion at a later date. But yeah, good question. Okay, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So, it does make sense that this would be like you could classify this as a local road, but essentially we're being asked to just assume ownership of something that I'm sure it's going to get handed to us in pristine condition, but 20 years from now, it's going to have to be repaved, and 20 years after that, we'll be repaving it. And we're not, so what's the benefit to us? And maybe I'll just have this would be a question to Ms. Moran. Is this going to open up something like more possibilities in terms of development for us? What would be the benefits?
So through you, Mr. Mayor. So this area is designated rural district. Stampville does have a settlement area boundary. So I think that's where some of that ribbon development sort of at the Princeton Road, this County Road 16 intersection has sort of stemmed from. There is already significant ribbon development towards County Road 1. So how many more severances or opportunities for landowners to sever? Probably not a ton, but still definitely opens up those options.
Councilor Reno?
I think to further your point, Councillor Smith, I would like to take a look. I agree this should be a local road, and I'm interested in exploring it. It would be interesting to look at it if we could get it added into our asset management plan and see what that looks like spread out over the next 10 to 20, 30 years and see what it looks like for our annual contributions, et cetera. So if we could add that into a little report that comes back to us on this one would be good to look at that.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Any others? Okay. Well, thank you, Director DeHaan. Thank you, Warden Lang, for being here. And there is a resident maybe of that road close by, so like you may want to go the other way. Ironically enough, we have a resident on that from that road here. So,
But if we get, but Mayor Broad, if we get the road in a great shape,
Yes.
it's a benefit, right? So
Benefit,
they don't have to
yes.
wait
Pristine.
for 20 more years to
That's
get
right.
it upgraded, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, moving along to delegation 6B, an OPP update. So Sergeant Jim Blanchett is with us tonight. Thank you, Sergeant, for being with us.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council and staff. Always a pleasure to be here. I provided the stats for all of last year. I know I'd been coming quarterly, but we didn't have a December meeting and the stats wouldn't have been accurate at that time anyway. So I just, I'm not going to speak too much on the stats. I just wanted them to be available to you and answer any questions that you may have as a result of viewing them. I don't see any trends that are significant, certainly nothing concerning, but I would gladly answer any questions that council may have.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Blanchard. Sergeant Blanchard, certainly we see charges and convictions in the paper of some of the things from the chart as it's reported meeting. I know Deputy Mayors might ask a question about speeding. Obviously, want to keep it a topic, in front of us and, at a highlight of that. Not specifically a question on the statistics, but want to keep it with your team and staff to make sure that we continue to monitor at the appropriate level and continue on monitoring the speeding. Other questions from the council team? Councillor Ward?
Thank you, Mayor. So it's just more of a comment. I just wanted to relay my thanks from a few community groups that the OPP was able to assist last year through a couple things. So I just wanted to extend my thank you, and we really appreciate your support. We hope we continue to get that support. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, and we're happy to help out as much as we can. Manpower being a little shorter than it used to be, sometimes that creates challenges. We have a shrinking auxiliary unit and less designated community officers, but the officers have really stepped up to the challenge and taken ownership of the community they serve, of the issues and concerns that are out there. So I think like the Williamsburg event, for example, I just put it out to the guys. I was on my day off. I came in, wasn't sure how many we'd have, and the entire shift showed up. There were 6 officers there, so we're very pleased with that. So yeah, I'm more than happy to, and I'll put it out there again. Sometimes it's hard to know who to contact or anything. Any requests from any community groups can come directly to me, and I'm more than happy to ensure that resources are made available to you.
Certainly, you have the President's Remembrance Day, Santa Claus Parade, the other events are appreciated. Would there be anything, since you mentioned about lack of auxiliary, is there anything we could do to help in the promotion or the auxiliary application process or recruitment? Is there something we could share or at least talk about?
Well, it's a trend province-wide, of course, not just our auxiliary unit, but volunteers in general, all volunteer agencies, organizations, whatever the case may be, are suffering. We are going to be starting a bit of a recruitment drive with, such things as Police Foundation courses in the local colleges and seeking, it's a good opportunity for people to get exposure to the career, see if it's what they want, make connections, contacts, that sort of thing. But yeah, I may in fact pass that, when we have that recruitment information out, and if council would consider having that on your local webpage, that would be very beneficial.
Great, and I do know, just one final comment, when we have a significant event, occasionally the inspector will reach out immediately to the CEO just to give a high level, because social media starts right away, so we appreciate, and I usually pass it on to the council team right away, just so people reach out to them, put their mind at ease that we're aware OPP's on it and leave it at that. But we appreciate kind of being in the know, because social media now, the information travels fast, so it's nice to get that information.
Yeah, it should happen everywhere, but
Yeah.
certainly within SDNG, we make efforts. If we have a major incident of any kind, we make the calls right away, and it should always be. And I think, but that's just one of the things we do very well here is keep everyone informed. All stakeholders need to know what's going on, and we all need to work together, and or at the very least be aware of what's going on. Certainly,
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. And this is going to be a very high-level question. I appreciate if you don't have the answer, and if you do, you may not want to respond. But recently, provincial announcement with the addition of I think it was a couple hundred OPP staff along we'll call border villages and cities. I'm just wondering if there was any indication if we're going to be receiving anything along the Seaway and SDNG in terms of additional staffing, or if that's been announced or determined yet.
yeah, I can speak to that. In fact, prior to this happening, anyway, I'm actually I'm seconded to the RCMP for the next 3 years. And that's what I do, is it's a border integrity unit. So I supervise an investigative team. So we look at organized crime and in particular focus on human smuggling, firearms and drugs. So I can tell you in this area, we will have an additional 2 officers every day shift, 2 officers every night shift for several months, I'm going to say, and then it's being looked at all the time. And the other thing that's relevant to council is, although those resources are being deployed here, that is not part of the SDNG budget. That is funded separately from the province. There's that, and then units like mine have been enhanced, so we have greater investigative capacity. There's other units like provincial weapons are beefed up, and there's best units, so border enforcement teams. There's a lot going on in response to the political pressures that are out there, and we're actually very fortunate that it's been recognized that this is an area that is certainly needing those extra resources, and I believe right now we have everything that we need. That also comes with increased air patrols, increased marine patrols once the water is open. So that's just kind of the basics of it, but it's pretty good. It's nice to see that the need has been recognized and it's being supported, and a lot is going on. And partnerships such as what I do with the RCMP, lot of resources going into those collaborations, because the combined powers of provincial and federal law agencies. We work with the Akwesasne Police, Quebec, and Northern New York partners. So a lot going on, and I think we're going to see some good results throughout this area.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Sergeant Blanchett. Appreciate you being here, and look forward to your next update.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving along in our agenda to Delegation 6C, Rideau St. Lawrence President Simon Wu is here to give us an update, some information sharing on our proposed changes to the shareholder agreement, as we are 33% owners of Rideau St. Lawrence Distribution, Utilities, etc. Mr. Wu, welcome.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. Good evening, Mayor Broad.
Is it,
Deputy Mayor.
just click the mic on there. There you go,
Okay.
perfect. We'll get you online this way.
Oh, perfect. All right, just saying good evening to everybody and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss a little bit about Rideau St. Lawrence. I have some exciting discussions for some of the changes that we want to do regarding our unanimous shareholder agreement, which I'll refer to as the USA, and really assess the rules as to how we operate and what are the, how we make decisions within the utility. Okay, and I'll start off providing a quick background regarding Rideau St. Lawrence. I'll get into the meat of the update, and then there's going to be an additional discussion point that's just going to be verbally, as we had discussed within the changes. So that's the three portions of my presentation. All right, so Rideau St. Lawrence Holdings is a private company. It's 25 years old this year, and it's owned by 5 shareholders. There's 2 major ones, which is South Dundas and Prescott, and then 3 smaller shareholders in Edwardsburg Cardinal, Fortis, Ontario, and Westport. So these are the 5 shareholders. Now, our vision is to enable vibrant communities. As how we do that is to provide stable electricity and innovative services to provide value to the shareholders. Okay, so that's how we're wanting to do it. Now, we have 3 main subsidiaries, our main one being Hydro Distribution and Rideau St. Lawrence Distribution as a company. We also have Rideau St. Lawrence Utilities and Rideau St. Lawrence Services. And these are our affiliate companies that are non-regulated. And historically, what we've operated within these businesses are things such as water, wastewater meter reading, customer service, billing. We also do hot water tanks, some dark fiber that we have in service as well. Now, over the recent years, in our area, energy transition and electrification has become very prominent. There's been a lot of momentum moving that way. And so some of the things that I'm calling electrification would be, for example, electric vehicles in the homes, heat pumps. These increase the amount of demand that our system needs, our customers would want. And in terms of energy transition, this would be renewable resources. So these could be such things as batteries or solar panels that are within the homes of customers, or some that are centralized too within the grid that are transitioning that way. And so with a lot of these changes, and at recent AGMs, shareholder representatives, councillors have attended and just asked questions about and suggested that we get into some of these other avenues of businesses related to our current operations as opportunities. And so as part of that, we started investigating and we looked into the various businesses over the last 3 or 4 years, some of which we've been successful in pursuing. So such things as we've discussed street lighting. So over the last year, we've done 30 to 40 street lights within both our service territory and outside, such as in Augusta, some business there. We've also provided some customer information system consulting and services for other utilities where we have some expertise. We've also started that line of business. And so there's some opportunities come up. Now, what we found is that some opportunities we're not able to jump on because it's outside of our current unanimous shareholder agreement scope. So there's a scope issue, and then the second is a timing issue. So the way we currently make decisions on larger acquisitions, perhaps, would be that we'd have to come to shareholders. And so the process to run through all 4 municipalities and Fortis, Ontario would be quite a long time, just like the process that we're updating the unanimous shareholder agreement here. We embarked on this change probably around a year ago. And within the unanimous shareholder agreement changes, what we've identified is 2 substantive updates. So if you look at the summary that's presented up here, one is permitted business activities. So this is related to scope. And the second is related to speed. So the portion related to speed is in regards to allowing 15% of shareholder equity decisions to be within the director level instead of going to all the shareholders. So our shareholder equity within the last statement that we had in 2024 has been around just under $6 million. So 15% of that would be just under $900,000 decision-making process. If there's a small business pursuit that is right, the directors would be allowed to make that decision for us to be able to jump on these opportunities in a quicker manner. The second substantive change is related to governance. So since the inception of Rideau St. Lawrence, the regulations regarding our distribution business has changed over time. And so the affiliate relationship code requires us to have 1/3 of our directors within our distribution company to be independent. And so that's just an update to something that's have occurred probably 15 years ago within the code and that we've already executed. And then the other three are less substantive would be there's been legal name changes, both in South Dundas as well as other shareholders that we've updated. There's also some general provision updates, such as method of which how we provide notices or some auditing standard references. Also some formatting cleanup in terms of both language and provisions that were there for inception, not necessarily for ongoing operations. So that's the bulk of the 5 changes that are presented in the summary. And this update represents months of collaboration between shareholder representatives and the CAOs, legal experts, and ensuring that the proposed changes reflect the shared interests of our stakeholders. And so that's the portion that's been presented. Now,
Should
yeah.
we take questions or comments now? Or
Sure, yeah,
before
sure.
we get it, is the next piece about the
Yeah, I was gonna go-
80% rule, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so why don't we
right.
take some comments now?
Sure,
And then
okay,
we don't
that
get
sounds
those too
good.
confused.
Yeah.
So I'll just start off with a comment because I sit on the board. We have a lawyer that sits on the board, so all the activities, the board feels very comfortable with the changes, wording in a lot of cases, like it was Township of South Dundas, now the municipality, et cetera. So a lot of those changes. But when we got into the, giving the directors, the board directors, the right to acquire business up to 15%, that was also sent to the CEOs, and CEO Mills led a group of all the CEOs, the 4 CAOs, and hired Cunningham Swan, and vetted through the changes. So, CEO Mills could comment if we wanted to call on him through that process. So, yeah, from a board member and then from a council or a municipality, I feel pretty confident. This is a good change for all of us and meets requirements. But if you have any questions about the specific changes, please ask. Please ask. All right, seeing none. So now this is going to be a little bit interesting topic that we're going to discuss and totally and open, and we may have to explain it a couple times so we really understand because we've talked this many times at our board director level. So go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So when the various shareholders went back to review, the municipalities got together and jointly reviewed, as well as Fortis reviewed the updates. One of the changes that got proposed that's outside of here was that there's 3 locations in which the unanimous shareholder referred to how major decisions are made. And so this is largely, the 2 main ones are in section 4. And so when shareholders and directors make major decisions, currently it is based on 80% of shares. Okay, so basically there's common shares issued. South Dundas has 33.6%. And Prescott has 34.5%. So these are the major shareholders. The others are around 10% each. And so essentially, jointly what came back was that they like to make a change from instead of shares being 80%, they want 80% of shareholders. And so when it came back, obviously on the surface, it initially seemed like, well, perhaps this maybe eliminates the veto power that South Dundas and Prescott would have. But on the flip side of the coin, what it does enable is if South Dundas or Prescott has a change they'd like to make, they don't need the other major shareholder to be in alignment as long as 4 out of 5 shareholders are in alignment. And so because this was outside of the intention of the update that we embarked on a year ago, what we decided to do in our December meeting amongst all the shareholder representatives is not include that within the updated package, but talk it verbally to give indication as to whether all the shareholders are in alignment. And so my January involved January 7th going to Westport. They were both in alignment of the base changes as well as this additional update verbally indicated. And so today I'm South Dundas, tomorrow I go to Edwardsburg Cardinal, and on Monday I reach out to Fortis, Ontario, as well as Prescott for their input on both aspects, both the base amendments that were presented, as well as this change that each shareholder representative, so this includes all the CAOs that were there, as well as Fortis Ontario's representative, where on the surface in alignment of. Of course, that's their initial indication, but we wanted to go through all the councils to ensure that there is support before we incorporate that into the changes for presentation.
So we've left the shareholder agreement the same as it was, where 80% of the shareholders have to agree to any changes, which means Westport and South Dundas have veto power. Because if one of us vote against, or Prescott and us have veto power, because, 100 minus 33 is 67%, so you never could get to 80%, right, on that. Now, we, South Dundas and Prescott earned that right by the initial investment into Rideau St. Lawrence 25 years ago. That's how it was divided up. Like Simon said, if we wanted something, Prescott could vote against and it wouldn't happen, but if we wanted to hold veto power, then we could keep it the same. So really, for us to make the change, all 5 municipalities have to agree. Obviously, South Dundas and Westport are the ones that really they're going to make the decision. Because for Fortis, Prescott, Westport, and Cardinal, they only have 10%, so they're just gaining a little bit more opportunity. So yeah, it's really up for us to decide, right? And when we talked at the board meetings, I was the one that said it works both ways, right? We have veto power, but so does Prescott. So it's like, depending what our situation is on a particular topic, it's nice to have the veto power, but then again, it's not nice to Prescott has the veto power. So food for thought or comments is really where we're at tonight. Councilor Vito?
My first question would be, in history, how often has this ever come up as an issue? How many times has there ever been a decision that was required to be made and somebody used their veto power or didn't use it, or somebody felt like they got shorted or anything like that?
Yeah. So we did talk that too. So luckily we have a board chair who's been on the board of directors for all 25 years. And so he said all decisions have been made on consensus basis historically. There's been no use of the voting. Well, we voted, but it's always been on consensus as to how we move forward historically. And so there's never been a case in which it's come into play.
Councilor Vito?
All right, so knowing that, I would say we leave the agreement alone the way it is, because if that's the way it was written 25 years ago, whenever we made the initial investment, I think that's doing a disservice to that original agreement. And if it hasn't come up in 25 years, I can't see it being an issue 25 years from now.
Sure. So. It's one reason why it was kind of left out, because it was like, it was just a thought through the CEOs, right? It wasn't from the board. The board of directors didn't suggest that. It came from the CEOs at the time. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, certainly, Councillor, you kind of nailed it for me as well. I think we have an agreement that currently works. It currently works.
Oh, yeah.
And if it works well, then I would say we should just continue moving forward unless there's some really rationale on why we should change it, but I'm not hearing really that rationale. I hear there's twos and
in my opinion, it was only just a pro and a con. There's
Yeah,
no rationale to,
Yeah.
we need to do it. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah. So it came from the shareholder representatives, and obviously it's the shareholders, unanimous shareholder agreement, right?
Yeah.
At the RSL level, we're just executing within our scope and trying to operate within, and how decisions are made are not really, we're almost agnostic to how this goes, right? But of course, if there's some interest, wanted to present it while we're updating it, just so that all the shareholders got the, right information and ability to decide as to whether they wanted to move forward or not. Yeah.
So with that, I would support Councillor Vino and just leaving the agreement.
Councillor Ward, Councillor Smith, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, so I just kind of want to understand this better. So what they're trying to do is make it more of like a weighted vote, where since we own a bigger portion, our vote means more. Is that?
No, so there's 5 shareholders today
Right.
representing 100 shares, but those 5 shareholders have a disappropriate amount of shares. So we have 33% of shares.
Right.
And the original agreement said to pass a motion, you need 80% of the shareholders to agree. Of the shares, right? 80% of the shares. So at any time, if they bring a motion forward, I can just vote against it, it's defeated right away. They like to change it to where if we were the 5 owners, only 4 out of the 5 of us need to agree. And it doesn't matter which one disagrees. They don't have ultimate.
80% of the shares.
Okay, because, because every time, say, you disagreed, it would automatically be.
Correct.
Agreed. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, and what I was saying at
Okay.
the board level that tonight was, but Prescott has that same power. So if
Right.
Dundas actually wanted to move ahead on a project, we have to make sure Prescott agrees. So that's kind of, then that's where the CEOs were thinking, maybe we change it or whatever, so, but,
No, and I agree, councillors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but I think there is a reason why we are a majority shareholder with Prescott. I mean,
We earned it. We did earn it.
We earned
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
We
yeah.
bought into it, and I think that should stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just the thing I was thinking was like whenever we're voting at South Nation Conservation, the City of Ottawa councillors it's always on a weighted vote. They have more, their vote means,
Yeah,
each
they
one
put
of
way
them-
more money in.
Yeah, each one of their votes
Yeah.
means 12.5%, whereas
Right.
my vote's 7 or 8. And
Right.
so if.
Similar.
Now it's similar,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I just want to get some clarification.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, that's why I said we have to talk it a few times, because we've been talking
Yeah.
it for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Councillor Ward?
Yeah, so I would agree with my colleagues that I think that, we've in history, we've invested in this utility. We are also responsible for this utility for 33% of its actions. And I feel if we lost that power, it could hurt us. Maybe it could benefit us. But I think, to Councillor Vino's point, that, it pays homage to the original agreement. And I think if it works, it works. And I'd prefer, it is a business, it's not a democracy. So I'd prefer to keep our shares and investment in our community. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I support unanimously, we want to leave it the way it is.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
yeah, for sure. So, no, great, yeah, that's a good conversation. And of course, any time, a year or 2, 3, it could come back, right? Like, it's not a forever, right? But at this point, I think that we'd like to keep our stake and voting power the way it is in the holdings company. So,
Okay,
cool. Any other comments or questions? No? Well, thank you, President Wu. Been a lot of work at the board level, and for yourself, you've navigated through, and I know CEO Mills, I actually want to thank him for leading the other CEOs, because it did save us a lot of money, because we got one lawyer to vet it for the 4 municipalities, so each of us split the cost, so instead of each one of us going out and getting lawyers to go through it, we did it as a shared, and that worked out really well. So thank you, CEO Mills, for doing that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, we'll move into action request 7A, PF 2025-01 Forward House, request for trust fund establishment. Director of Parks, Recreation and Facilities, Director Jansen.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and good evening, Council. So as you can see in front of you, staff did receive a request from the Historical Society of South Dundas, trying to use a little creative financial request here. And additionally, in their request, they did outline a lot of the things that they've done in the last little while. I know as part of their lease agreement, they are to give us a little bit of an update every once in a while. So it is nice to see a good update from them. As you can see within the report, staff are recommending that we do not provide the financial funding towards them. Ultimately, it would be unbudgeted for us as well, so it would put us at a liability, and additionally, their lease does have that they are supposed to maintain the building without cost to the municipality. Outside of that, if council has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to ask the question, and I'm not asking the question of which way I'm voting, but I'm just asking, you say there's a risk on the municipality. What risk? Can you just explain that? What risk we have other than it's a $20,000 fund? Like what other risk?
It's
do we
just a
have?
financial risk, sorry.
But what is the risk? That we lose $20,000? That we,
So through you, Mayor Broad, so their request is for us to put in trust for them for $20,000. They're looking to utilize a grant match to complete their grant request. So rather than them writing the request, they'd get grant match to do it. As part of the grant match system, they take 10% of whatever you get. So we would have to come in and fund that grant match because they don't have the funds.
okay, so it's a budgetary
Yes,
item.
it's a
Yeah,
budgetary
okay,
risk,
okay. I
sorry.
thought they were just, the way it was spelled out, I thought there was some bigger risk that we
No,
were
sorry.
taking on that I just didn't understand, that's all. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through Mayor Broad. So this is a question for Director Jansen as well. Do we not utilize grant match here? And I believe we do we not?
So through you, Mayor Broad, we do have an agreement with Grant Match. We're in contact with them. We haven't utilized it to complete a grant, and some of it, like, ultimately, I think whenever CAO Mills brought Grant Match, it was a tool in our toolbox, not to be used all the time. For something like the OTF grant, which I'll admit the municipality will be applying for as well, I wouldn't use Grant Match just because of this $20,000 commitment. The municipality can write the grant and fill it out ourselves. I see Grant Match as a great tool for the $10,000 to $15,000 grants where we might have to dedicate, 20 hours of staff time to write the report. Well, if we only have to give up 10% of 15,000, well, now we're only giving up $1,500. Maybe it's a tool that can save us time. On the larger grants, even whenever CO Mills brought it, I did see it not as effective as a tool. And ultimately, like if you take the arena and we get $1 million grant, then that number keeps growing.
Yeah, for grants that are like, not a regular process granting, right? Something special comes up, they might have better expertise in how to word it, so you may engage them at that point. Councillor Smith, continue.
Yeah, so just to follow up. So was it not, whenever we signed up for that, was it not, we were told if we were successful in getting a grant, they take 10%, correct? So is theirs different? Why do we need this 20,000 set up in trust for them?
So through you, Mayor Broad, and part of the application within the grant will be for them to prove that they have the financial ability to fund any outside parts of the grant. And in their letter, they currently don't. So what they're looking for is a trust letter from us to fund the outside 20,000 that they wouldn't be able to supply, because if not, they wouldn't be able to apply for the grant.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jansen. I certainly appreciate everything the community group is doing at this time at the Forward House, and hopefully we keep coming up with ideas to keep moving their agenda forward. But I do have a motion at this time. The council received report PF 2025-101 regarding the Forward House Board of Directors requests an establishment for a $20,000 municipal trust fund, and the council denies staff's request for establishment of this trust fund at this time. However, direct staff to continue to work with the Historical Society of South Dundas to provide non-financial support in their fundraising projects. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
No, sorry, you're confusing me. Are we voting to give them the
No.
trust fund or we're not?
Deny the request.
Okay. Okay, that's,
Council direct staff to deny the request for the establishment of the $20,000 fund.
okay. Because below, there's recommendations, Mayor Broad, and that's why I'm asking. There's alternative options. That's why I just want to make sure.
Sure,
we're
yeah,
just
no, of
going
course,
on
of course.
track, because it's-
Yes, so the recommendation is to deny the request.
Okay, perfect, thank you, sorry, I just,
No, that's fine.
then, yes,
I did stutter when I was reading it, so that made that pretty clear.
I was reading it, it was kind of a report that's been written on the opinion of staff versus here's what they're asking for, and this is what your clear recommendation options are, so that's why I was just a little bit confused. It had nothing to do with the way you read it, so.
Oh, Deputy Mayor,
Oh,
so,
you want me to repeat that?
yeah.
Okay, so right from the question?
Oh,
No, okay, so I was just confused. I apologize. I was confused by the report a little bit because the way it was written, it was kind of written in a way that it was staff's opinion all the way through on why, but there wasn't really, in my opinion, when I read it, a clear directive of these are your two options of yes or no, and that's usually the way what we see, right? So it was my confusion, wasn't the way you read it. So if you want to redo it, I understand. We're voting on denying the request.
Very good. So Councillor Wood made the motion, Councillor Vino seconded, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, 7B, PE 2025-01, draft pre-servicing agreement. Valcraft Homes, well, planner Stephanie Moore is with us. Welcome, Stephanie.
Good evening, Council. So as you know, Vailcraft Homes has been working through the subdivision process for the Merkley Oaks subdivision in Iroquois. The developer has requested permission to begin pre-servicing work before the final subdivision approval in order to expedite development and address housing demands. So there's a lot of moving parts, as you can imagine, to building out a subdivision. So tonight, my report, we're just looking for council to approve the execution of a pre-servicing agreement with Vailcraft and adjust the security that the municipality holds for that pre-servicing agreement from 100% of the cost of the site works to $50,000. So the pre-servicing agreement that essentially allows the developer to begin necessary infrastructure work like site prep, grading, the installation of water, wastewater, and storm facilities, as well as roadways. The agreement ensures the municipal oversight and protects our interests during the installation of the assets that the municipality will eventually own. The agreement outlines securities and insurance requirements, and it requires the developer to cover the costs associated with municipal review and inspection. And at the end of the day, the developer accepts the risk of any work completed prior to final approval. So in terms of security, the municipality requires 100% security deposit for the pre-servicing work, which includes the water, the sewer, roads, and stormwater infrastructure. Other municipalities, Ottawa, Castleman, North Dundas, North Stormont, South Stormont, they typically require a smaller deposit for this kind of agreement, usually between the range of $50,000 and $100,000. And this essentially can ease that financial pressure for the developer. So staff recommend considering a lower security deposit, particularly since most of this work is being installed at the developer's risk on private property at this time. So when the subdivision agreement comes to council at a later date, that security can roll over into the security required for the formal subdivision agreement. But the security for those works during the as part of the subdivision agreement will continue to be 100%, but it will be evaluated as security for the remaining works to be completed. So there's essentially more to come on that. This agreement essentially provides a balanced approach and enables early infrastructure work while also safeguarding municipal interests with appropriate security and oversight. So staff recommend that council approve the execution of the pre-servicing agreement with the option to consider adjusting the security amount to support the developer.
Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. No, I read this. I mean, this is a standard agreement that I'm very familiar with. 50,000 is fair. I mean, that's a standard early servicing agreement. Just a couple questions. The percentage that so our fees, is it based on a percentage of the estimate, or is it a flat fee that we would charge for inspections, design review, all that stuff?
So they are required for the peer review costs for all the design review, as well as our inspection costs.
Correct, but is that based on the cost estimate, or is that flat fee? Like per visit, is it like?
Per visit, yes.
Yeah, okay, so it's not, the reason why I'm asking, Stephanie, is because some agreements, they base design fees, inspection fees and whatnot based on a percentage of the actual estimate of works. So that's why I was asking. That might be something you may want to consider in the future. because sometimes when the value is a little bit higher, it takes a little bit more, thing, and you can recoup. No, like I say, this is a fairly standard agreement, Mayor Brown and Council. It's something that I'm used to. I kind of read through it, not in full detail, but most of it. And I think this is pretty standardized. Are there any off-site works to be completed?
Not under this agreement.
But is there any?
There will be some sidewalk.
Okay, so
And
nothing
pedestrian
nothing in terms of servicing of roads or upgrades that they need to do up front as part of the early servicing agreement?
No.
That will fall under later now. So then when do we post securities, or when will they post securities on that, when they're ready to do the work?
At the time that they enter into the subdivision agreement.
So they're not allowed to do any off-site works until they register?
Correct.
So I guess one of the things I think we should consider, again, just with experience, we should consider off-site securities as well as part of an early servicing agreement. And typically what I see is a 50,000 on-site, and then developers will post 100% of the off-site works as part of the same kind of agreement at that time, because then that would allow them to, again, complete the utilities, complete the road works, complete underground. Let's say, for instance, we had to do some downstream ditching for drainage purposes. Well, with this agreement, they wouldn't be able to do that until they register.
Right.
And a lot of times, registration doesn't occur until kind of just prior to occupancy, right? So just something you may want to just consider down the road, now that I'm understanding our little process a little bit better, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks for your expertise on the topic. Deputy Mayor, any other comments at this time? Yeah, Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. So through you to Ms. Moran, is the $50,000 just for phase one? Is it for all phases that were?
It's for all phases. So once they had hired Tomlinson had a very aggressive construction schedule, and so instead of doing it servicing it in phases, they're going to service the entire subdivision.
So then it's one agreement.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very good. Just before I read the motion, I have a comment that Ms. Moore, if you could take away, because I did have some feedback from some residents now that the map is being posted, and this is kind of for you and Manager Hyman as well. The Billing Street east-west and the numbering has caused some conflicts with emergency service in the past. Could we just please take a look at the best way to mediate that situation? I won't suggest any this time any thoughts, but please take a look at that. Just the Billings east-west, especially similar to Morrisburg's 5th Street. Just since we're going about this now, if we wanted to think about something anything different, then we should take a look at it now. So I'll leave that with you if you don't mind.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion that council authorize the execution of the pre-servicing agreement as described in Schedule A between Municipality of South Dundas, Valcraft Homes 2019 Limited for the Merkley Oak subdivision, South Dundas, SD&G file 02 SDS 2023, and further reduce securities for the pre-servicing agreement to $50,000. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Okay, moving to bylaws. 8A, 2025-01. Hey, 2025-01, first one. Borrowing bylaw. Treasurer Stewart.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Broad. Yes, first one, here we go. So with the borrowing bylaw, annually we're required to pass a temporary borrowing bylaw. Having this bylaw is important to have the available funds through temporary borrowing to meet current expenditures should we not collect sufficient revenue, tax revenue, before these payments are due. However, I don't expect to need the borrowing bylaw. It's just something in place in case. So if council has any questions.
Questions, comments? Seeing none of, oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, sorry, and I just have a very silly question for, through you, Mayor.
No silly questions.
I get all the report, but since we already went through the budget, the 2025 budget, why do we reference the estimates from the 2024 budget?
Because budget isn't passed yet, so we go back to the 2024 budget until the 2025 is passed. Had the 2025 budget been passed, then I would reference that one. But because we're doing all of it tonight,
Subsequent? May I ask another silly question? Then, since we already went through the budget process, why wouldn't we have passed the 2025 budget? So then everything would be reflective of the 2025 budget.
so through you, Mayor Broad, we could. It won't make a whole lot of difference, particularly since we don't anticipate to use it. It would just mean we'd likely have a little bit more buffer as far as borrowing capacity. So instead of, I think, 9 million, it might be 9.2 million available. We certainly could.
No, I'm
it's-
not suggesting we
no,
do or not. It was
that's-
just more of a, like I say, silly question.
That's
Just,
all it is. It's,
okay.
we base the calculations
Okay,
based
thank
on
you.
the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-01 being a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing to meet until taxes are collected, current expenditures of the corporation of the year be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Continuing along, Treasurer Stewart, 2025 interim tax levy.
So through you, Mayor Broad, interim tax levy. So this bylaw is for council to authorize staff to issue the interim tax bills for residents of South Dundas. The interim tax levy, when we bill it, it's 50% of, again, 2024's rates. Our billing is, for the interim, is early March, so they go out to residents early March and is due on March 31st. And again, if there's any questions.
Questions? Have a motion that bylaw 2025-02 being a bylaw to provide an interim tax levy for 2025 be read, passed, and open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Ward. Seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Bylaw 8C 2025-03 Williamsburg wastewater rates. Treasurer Stewart.
Again, through you, Mayor Broad, this bylaw is for council approval of the 2025 wastewater rates for Williamsburg. During the 2024 budget deliberations, council expressed some concern over the level of reserves and transfers to reserves for the Williamsburg wastewater. Staff at that time presented council with various rate increase options. At the time, option 2 was chosen, which was represented 34.6% increase, and that was required over 2 years to get to the recommended reserve rate. So this is year 2 of the 2 years, so it was increased again by 34.6%, which means the annual levy for the wastewater is $339.15 that will be billed out to residents.
Questions, comments? I have a motion that bylaw 2025-03 being a bylaw to impose a sewer service rate in Williamsburg be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed, and furthermore, that bylaw 2024-09 be rescinded in its entirety. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, and thank you, Treasurer Stewart. Okay, moving to 8D 2025-04 tile drain loan Nurt Dairies Incorporated. Deputy Treasurer Fairburn, or
Deputy Clerk.
Deputy Clerk, what did I say, Deputy Treasurer? Deputy Clerk, sorry, geez.
Through you, Mayor Broad, this bylaw before you is the final step regarding the child drain loan program for Nord Dairies, Inc. The application was approved by council on October the 9th in 2024. Just a reminder to council that there's no cost to the municipality. It just facilitates for MAFRA, so I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I have a motion that bylaw 2025-04 being a bylaw to impose special annual drainage rates upon land in respect to which money is borrowed under the Drainage Act be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Continuing along, Deputy Clerk to 8E 2025-05 partial drain abandonment, Baldwin Harbors Municipal Drain.
Through you, Mayor Broad, so the bylaw is just to formalize the direction that was given by council on December the 11th for the partial abandonment of the Baldwin Harbors Municipal Drain.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, I have a motion that Council of South Dundas approve bylaw 2025-05 to approve partial abandonment from Station 00 to 13.29 Matilda Lot, 29, concession 4 of the Baldwin Harbors Municipal Drain within the limits of the municipality of South Dundas. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Continuing 8F, 2025-06, partial drain abandonment, Marcellus Drain Branch 3.
Through you, Mayor Broad, this bylaw before you is just a formalized direction that was given by council on December the 11th, 2024 for the partial abandonment of the Marcellus Branch 3 municipal drain.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, I have a motion that the Council of South Dundas approve bylaw 2025-06 to provide partial abandonment of Marcellus Branch 3 municipal drain from 00 to 2350 Williamsburg East Part Lot 23 Concession 6 and West Part Lot 22 Concession 6 within the limits of the municipality of South Dundas. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Last one, Deputy Clerk, 8H 2025-07, abandonment, Don Haynes Branch 14 drain.
This bylaw is to formalize the direction given by council on December the 11th for the partial abandonment of the Don Haynes Branch 14 municipal drain. We just want to remind council that we will continue to update residents on what a municipal drain is and ditching. So I just wanted to bring that forward.
Yes, that was feedback from last time to
Yes,
make sure we
yes.
kept the communications going. Very good. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to make a maybe point for staff in the future. If you could put the picture or the map of the drain, it just saves me going back and forth to the last meeting and lining up the drains. It just also for the public, if they wanted to read it, it would just help. That's all. If it could be
More
done in the future.
context in the actual
Yeah,
bylaw
exactly.
motion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion that Council of South Dundas approve bylaw number 2025-07 to provide partial abandonment of the Don Haynes Branch 14 municipal drain from Station 00 to 2025, Matilda Lot 5 concession 4 within the limits of the municipality of South Dundas. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving to 8H 2025-08, updated fees and charges. Go to Director Jansen.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, Clerk LeBrun's away tonight, so you're stuck with option 2, maybe 3, 4, whatever you want to put me at there. Obviously, in front of you tonight is the fees and charges bylaw. Also, I know the treasurer just passed the budget. This is also a big part of our budget process and a big decision for council, so we're happy to bring this back again this year. It was reviewed last January. We have some minor tweaks in the work that was done here today. I know the clerk's department, speaking as it's not being presented from the clerk's department, we can say the clerk's department puts a lot of effort into this bylaw. It takes a lot of work to herd some certain directors and myself included to get all the information from us to update it. And I know the clerk's department's gone through and cleaned it up a little bit. If council will remember last year, I had the bylaw come back and then we attached the entire bylaw and it was an extra 50 pages in the council agenda. So you'll see that they broke it down into nice sections this year. I think that'll help going forward. So if we ever want to amend anything or if any member of council wants to amend something during the year, we can just pull that schedule and just update that schedule. So I know the clerk's department's been working hard on that. Just for some clarity and stuff. And you'll also see in the report, the water, wastewater, and the landfill, we're still working on those. We're hoping to have those back to council in February. Just a quick summary from there. Administration, there's just a little bit of cleanup and a little update to the marriage license. Building, all they did was just update the minimum charge. It kind of lines up with, honestly, you very rarely use the minimum charge, and the minimum square footage to apply for permit has also increased. So you see some of that scaling there. No changes in bylaw, no changes in fire. Big one, and the reason why I get to present this is in Parks and Rec, we have the campground and marina, so we did some more inflationary increases there. So some slight increases there. One big increase we did have there and there, you'll see licensed events at the halls going up by about 25% as they happen, and we're below market average, and just because there's such a high risk to the municipality as our alcohol policy, we do have to staff it. So it just helps us with a little bit of cost recovery. We're definitely not making money on the hall rentals still, but it helps with a little bit of cost recovery there. On the recreation end, just a few updates, some new programs that we have, just formalizing the new program into the fee bylaw. Treasury, there was no change. In Public Works, you just see a few small changes and a little bit of housekeeping. And then on the planning side, there's no changes, but obviously we're working on development charges, so there'll be some changes coming throughout the year there. Outside of that, obviously, this is a big part of collecting revenue for the municipality, so if council has any questions, we'll do our best to answer any today.
Questions, comments? Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Brad, I'm trying to scan through it here. For the ice rental times, the free hours that are allotted for the schools, I can't remember if we talked about this, but is all the schools in South Dundas are included in that? And is Timothy Christian School included in that? I was just curious if it was or not.
Dr. Jensen?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Broad, to Councillor Smith, yes, we do at all schools, so I know Timothy Christian's already used their 2 hours for this ice season as well, and, you know, many of the schools go over the allotted time and end up paying our lowest rate, and we do offer a very competitive school package compared to other municipalities.
Okay, I was just curious if Timothy Christian was included in that or not.
Yeah, very good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, have a bylaw be resolved. The council adopt bylaw 2025-08, being a bylaw to rescind bylaw 2024-03, and to establish fees and charges to be collected by various municipal departments. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. 8I, 2025-09, Animal Shelter Agreement with the Township of Russell, CO Mills.
Yep. Thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor. The report before you as council has read is to enter into an animal shelter and control agreement with the Township of Russell, which would be effective February 1st. Just some background for council. We've had a 20 or so year arrangement with a private service provider for animal control and animal shelter. The agreement from 2019 has been extended a number of times. And recently, we have found out that the Township of North Stormont, South Stormont, Townships of South Stormont, North Dundas, and North Stormont have exited the agreement and have also found a new provider, which happens to be also the Township of Russell. Changes necessary due to these developments, and just also for something for council to think about, and I think many of you are dog owners. Social media is a common tool for finding a dog now, and most dogs have some form of either microchip or AirTag or something for identification. There are some benefits to entering into the Russell Township Partnership. There's enhanced service capacity. There are multiple trained, 5 in total uniformed officers and marked vehicles, expanded response time, and 24/7 support. Our bylaw officer and CBO visited on site and did see how things were done. It is OMAFRA approved. There's improved response time and certainly a focus on dog management and sheltering. We did obtain some statistics from the Township of Russell that in the past year it was under 10, the number of dogs in total that were housed in the facility. And of note, the population of Russell certainly exceeds ours, if not all of the close, and they're a growing municipality. There are financial advantages as well per use billing model. We forecast a budget, the budget going down by about $10,000 for 2025. There is no need for new facility construction, and I know that all of the municipalities in the agreement were looking at whether we were going to put up a kennel on our own and finance that. I know that our finance department will have less work because we were overseeing the agreement. We were taking in all of the invoices, billing back out, and having to do all the work on the finance side. So I know that Mr. Mason's not here, but he's been the lead on that and taken that on, and we've discussed that. In terms of risk management and service quality, it ensures service continuity. Professional transportation services to Russell Shelter included. And we will certainly monitor this as we go along. For implementation, we've developed a communication plan will include social media and our website updates that are all ready to go. So we're seeking authorization from council to execute an agreement between the municipality of South Dundas and the township of Russell, which would be effective in February 1st.
Questions, comments? Thanks, Yale Mills. Been a lot of work on this, and unfortunately with the other municipalities, townships exiting the agreement, I think this is the way we have to go, and I thank you for your recommendation. Okay, I have a bylaw, or a motion that let it be resolved that the Council of South Dundas authorize the execution of an agreement between the municipality of South Dundas and the Corporation Township of Russell for the use of the Russell Township Animal Shelter be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 22nd day of January 2025. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Last bylaw under J 2025-11 operating and capital budgets 2025. Treasurer Stewart.
Through you, Mayor Broad. So as final step of the budget process, council needs to pass the bylaw in order to adopt the budget. So this year for 2025, the overall net tax levy is just under 9.4 million. The residential tax rate, we're seeing a 5.45% increase, which would mean approximately $71.86 on residential assessment of about $220,000. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, thanks Treasury for all the work leading up to tonight on the budget. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-11 being a bylaw to set the 2025 estimates of all sums required be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, boards and committees. Moving along, 9D, start off with Councillor Smith, South Nation Conservation updates.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So the last few meetings at South Dundas, at South Nation, have been a lot of budget-related stuff. So the total budget for South Nation for the year is just over $9 million. Of that $9 million, 4.6 million of that comes from levy from municipalities. The budget increase that South Nation mirrors, I guess you could say, is the City of Ottawa, since City of Ottawa is one of the largest contributors to their levy. So this year, the total increase was 4.4%, which was what the City of Ottawa saw for an increase. So that means that our levy this year, last year's levy was 91,454. This year is going to 94,390. And also on top of that, South Nation completed their asset management plan just the same as what we did. And of course, like everybody else, they're way behind. So last year they included $50,000 total capital levy, and this year it was decided by the board to increase that up to $200,000, and that'll probably be going forward for a while. In their 10-year asset management plan that they've completed, there is some major work that needs to be done at two of the dams, one at Chesterville and one at Chrysler. In 2027, there's approximately $1 million worth of rehab work that needs to be done on those two structures. So that means that the total that, last year's capital levy was just over $1,000. There's $1,030 that we paid last year, and this year that's going to $4,071. So now, we, of that, our total share of that is 2.04%. And we compare that to the city of Ottawa. The city of Ottawa pays 76.5% of their total levy. So the city of Ottawa last year paid 3.43 million into the levy, and this year they're paying 3.699 into the into the levy. South Nation Conservation right now is currently sitting with a reserve at the start of the year of 3.35 million. And like everybody else's reserves, it's been steadily going down over the last 3 or 4 years. Hence the need that it was decided to go with a capital levy. So that's just kind of a high level of their budget. Conservation area visits in 2024 set an all-time record of 220,000. Septic permits, which is a good indication of new home builds or home sales, because lots of times if you have a home sale in a rural area, condition of sale is septic. That's a common thing. Their numbers were down year over year, 24 to 23, but this year, 24 was the first year that they did not do septic permitting for Augusta Township, because Augusta Township decided to go it on their own. So they were down, but if they would have had Augusta Township, it's still included, they would have been up. So that is a good indicator of ongoing activity. Yeah, oh, and another big one that was that after we had passed or sent out our preliminary budget to the municipalities that was circulated, there was direction from the ministry that their fees were going to be frozen again this year. So since it had already been sent out to municipalities, that it was basically too late for us to go back and change anything. So they're just going to have to just take some of that money out of reserve. So that impact to South Nation this year is estimated to be about $15,000 that they're potentially going to be losing out on if they could have. So it was it's not insignificant, but it's not huge. So they're just going to try and it'll come out of reserves. So that's what they estimate their impact was going to be on those fees being frozen for this year. So that's about it.
Great, no, that's a big update, Councillor Smith, so thank you for that. The South Nation, under C, SDG County Council meeting in December. Deputy Mayor and I attended our council meeting. Some of the highlights, continued to work on the exploring of land for County Road 22, so that runs between Maxfield to Highway 138, and good news is that project now has been completed to get the land, and they're going to tender to complete County Road 22. Acquisition of forest land, so we've acquired a few hundred acres of land from donators, some farmland in the forestry area, and the plan is going forward is we could plant up to 22,000 trees on this property we've just acquired. So for some of the development work we do, when we might be removing some tree canopy, this is an area where, again, we can continue to work at the county level where we'll be planting 22,000 trees. So that's kind of a good news story. Also, personnel update, updated the amount of sick days at the county level to be similar to the rest of the counties. Went into a funding agreement to work on some upgrades infrastructural wise at the county jail, which is the tourist attraction under the council chambers. And switching to Rogers on our mobility devices, accepted a lot of items under the consent agenda. I don't think anything else, Deputy Mayor? Nope. Very good. RSL. Well, the warden is here if you wanted to. Did we capture everything from your first meeting, warden? We're a thumbs up from the warden. That's good. We did have a quick board meeting at Rideau St. Lawrence, kind of an unplanned one. We wanted to vote on a new auditor, external auditing company for the 2025 audit, which is for the 2024 books. So we are in agreement with KPMG for that audit. MNP, Jamie Pollock, who we're quite familiar with within that does our audits, with some of their reduce staffing just because they can't hire. They're finding it challenging to keep doing as many audits as they can. So they've kind of asked if we could move on at this time. So that was the plan. And we had a resignation of our operations manager who we recently hired. So we're going back to the market to find an operations manager at RSL, and President Simon Wu, who you met tonight, is working on that. So those are just the two items from Rideau St. Lawrence. And of course, we saw the updated shareholder agreement conversation. Economic and Community Development meeting. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Yes, we had a meeting on January 14th. A couple of the members were away, so it was a very quick one. New member Megan Adams did attend, so it was great to have her. We basically did a little bit of an EDO update on the development properties and happenings in the municipality. So that was good to see. We talked about the rental unit in Iroquois going up. We talked about the long care home. We talked about Velcraft. We remind everybody of the Velcraft opening this weekend, which Mayor Brown, I'm sure you'll talk about soon. So we did talk about just, the ongoing stuff like that. We were going to get into our 2025 draft action plan, but we decided just to defer that until the next meeting. We did get an update from Tia, though, on the users of social media, which continues to surprise me every time I hear it. So Facebook users was 688,000, which is a 110% increase from 2023. Interactions like liking, commenting, sharing, 36,000, which is a 100% increase from 2023. Instagram total views around 72,000, about 65% increase from 2023. Again, interactions, the likings, the comments, 1.9K, 100% increase. And then the TikTok views, which is 12K. And we don't know if we'll be able to report TikTok views in the future if it gets sold or abandoned or whatever. But no, it was a good meeting. It was a quick meeting. Anything else to add, sir?
Yeah, just more of a strategic planning meeting coming up. In
Yeah,
February.
strategic plan meeting coming up. Yeah.
For back to us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. F Youth Working Group. Councillor Ward?
I don't have an update right
No
now.
update, okay. SCG County Library meeting, so it was in Alexandria last Thursday. Kicked the year off. We looked at all the reports, a lot of big consent agenda and the statistics for 2024. Many avenues to look at, but I think one of the key ones and the things I continue to push with our libraries, it's, obviously I look at SDNG, but I'm responsible for all 15. The amount of borrowers, so last year we returned to pre-pandemic numbers in excess of 36,380 unique borrowers within our libraries, and we have instituted a marketing plan where our plan is to get to 7,000. So the more borrowers is our unique visitors, and then as they keep using our programs and our services and checkouts, that all goes up. But I think a key component that we really, myself, was driving the team, Rebecca Luck and the marketing team, is we got to continue to get usage up at our libraries, because they are a big benefit and introduction. And then it's better, you think about the amount of money we spend, how it's distributed throughout, and how it's great to see the libraries busy. We did a self-evaluation of the board. We talked through all the outreach programs, and two reciprocal borrowing agreements. We found it entered, so we're going to enter a reciprocal borrowing agreement with the libraries at North Grenville, so which is more specifically the Kentville Library. So if you're a resident of North Grenville, you can borrow from SDNG library, and if you're an SDNG resident, you can borrow from the North Grenville Library. So it's a little reciprocal, which we'll see. It's not good, nice activities for folks that maybe work in Kentville. They want to take advantage of their nice big library, but we have a lot of residents that live right near the South Mountain border with Kentville that may want to use the South Mountain. So just a reciprocal agreement, so there's no fees for each other. So to see some more activities within the libraries, which is just good for programming. And we also have a temporary agreement with the Nation. The Nation have closed all 3 of their libraries in their municipality. And so we've allowed free, now, the nation are paying $1,500 for 3 months for anybody from the nation community that wants to use any of our libraries. They can, free of charge, but the nation is covering that cost through a $1,500 donation to our library service. And that'll work through till the end of March until they figure out the next steps at their library. Yeah, that was it for the library board. Last one, H, Roma, Rural Ontario Municipal Conference. So Councillor Smith, Councillor Ward, Deputy Mayor, myself, CO Mills, of course, the warden, several members from the counties all attended the Roma Conference in Toronto for the last 3 days. Excellent conference from a standpoint of the sessions and training sessions we participated in as we spread out in different sessions and learned and then captured that back. We also had 2 delegations. One delegation was with the parliamentary assistant, Amajat Sanhu, with infrastructure, which we continue to tell our story with the water potentials, the St. Lawrence parks, and then our shopping mall plazas continue to tell our story. Some of the funding that infrastructure currently had, we didn't fit under because we have current water and wastewater capacity, but they did announce yesterday morning, the minister, that there are 2 new funding scenarios. One is for granting for current water and wastewater infrastructure. So that fall under us. And then a loan program as well, where we can borrow money to work on infrastructures that are related to replacing current use versus new. The previous funding that they still have in place is all about new development. This is about securing old development. And I'm sure the deputy mayor and you for at the plazas will be looking at that in future meetings, right? So that'll be great for Manager Villeneuve on the water and wastewater side. The second delegation was with Hydro One. So as you know, our area is serviced by both Rideau St. Lawrence and Hydro One. All of our hydro does come from, or all of our electricity, whether it's generated through hydroelectricity or nuclear, comes from Hydro One. So we had a chance to meet with them, tell them our story. We didn't have a specific ask other than we wanted to open up the lines of communication so that they're well aware and get all of our plans into their plan for electrical requirements going forward. So as I think of the industrial park powerhouse developments, as they build those warehouses, we want to make sure we know exactly when the right time is to ask for that electrical usage, so it gets into their plan, so we're not years getting electrical plans, because right now they're like 2 to 3 years from significant electrical needs. That's how long it takes for us to get that. So we open all those lines of communication to get the right contacts, know the process, and they're really excited to meet us and hear our story and of all the future electrical needs that we'll need in the future. So that was a good conversation. Anything else anybody wants to add from Roma? I think those were the highlights. Yeah, good. Okay. Any other committee meetings? Seeing none? Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, yeah.
Thank you. For David Jansen, have we landed on the committee meetings for the waterfront, the joint meeting yet?
So through you, Mayor Broad, to the deputy mayor, it was discussed at the Morrisburg committee last night, and they picked a couple of dates that we'll bring to the Iroquois committee next week.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. And Councilor Vino will bring an update next meeting for that meeting. That jogged my memory. Also at Roma, we asked, we got information back from Minister Lunsdom on the recreation grant we asked for. They initially said early winter they had announced, and now they're saying early spring. So that's the latest feedback we have on the recreation grant that we asked for. That was for our arena upgrade. So hopefully we're successful and we'll hear early spring. Can't come fast enough. Yeah. Okay, consent agenda 10A, building stats for 2024. B, building permits year-end summary. C, website audit results. D, proposed changes to the municipal code of conduct integrity framework. E, minutes from the South Nation Conservation Authority from the November meeting. A memorandum from South Nation Conservation Authority 2025 free tree days. G, South Nation Conservation fee schedule. H, a resolution from Brantford West Gilberry deposit return program. I, resolution Township of Pushlish, TAPMO letter regarding pre-budget announcement. J, resolution City of Stratford respecting local democracy cities. And K, resolution Town of Kearney, letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I have a motion that all the items listed on the consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. See, no discussion items for tonight. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, I have ratification bylaw, that bylaw 2025-12 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor, or Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, sorry. And adjournment motion, the council now adjourned to meet at the call of the chair. To Councillor Ward, Councillor Vino, all in favor, carried. Getting tongue-tied as we, sorry about that. Yeah. Just as we bring tonight's meeting to a close, this weekend, Valcraft Homes having an open house ribbon cutting on Saturday afternoon, so please come to Iroquois. I think they're having beaver tails. Chris Neal is there signing autographs. So if you're a Sens fan, you want to participate in that. Certainly want to thank the staff. I want to thank all our delegations tonight for everybody that attended, and I want to thank Warden Lang for attending tonight. But my farewell comments will be to CO Mills. This is his last meeting as he is moving on to a bigger staff.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Bigger
Unless I know
budget.
something else, I'll be here February 5th too, but.
Okay. Oh, you're at the February 5th meeting?
Don't tell them.
But go ahead, I'll take any good feedback.
I'll leave it for
Or
February
great
5th.
feedback.
I forgot we had a meeting in between. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. February 5th, we will comment on your leaving, but we'll leave it at that. The CO Mills is leaving for the city of Cornwall. So we'll address his, we'll have final comments on February 5th. Apologize for that. I was thinking tonight was the last night. Yeah. Maybe you might be sick that night, so maybe I should do it now. Anyways, okay, as we bring tonight's meeting to a close, thank you for everyone in attendance and those watching us online live or as a recording. Good night for some.